City have already conceded 17 goals this season. So after suffering those 5 defeats on the bounce for the first time in his career, Pep Guardiola was asked in his post-match press conference whether a historic 5th straight league title is still on the cards.
Pep, were you to lose at Anfield next weekend, that could be an 11-point gap to Liverpool. Would that be too much?
Yeah. In the terms of Liverpool is winning, it's true. Yeah.
So that would be the title gone already?
I don't know. But what I said before, it's not thinking about you are going to win or going to lose. To think to win the next game. We are not, I think maybe the expectations are so high, but we are not ready in that situation to think what is going to happen at the end of the season. And at the end, if we don't win, it's because we don't deserve it. And we won it in the past because we deserve it. So what we have to do is now Feyenoord. That is the most important thing. First for the qualification for the Champions League, and step by step the players, will be better.
Sounded like Neil Custis asking the questions there, Henry. Pep was quite sanguine about it yesterday, I thought, almost like, yeah, well, these things happen in football, but I mean, this is pretty extraordinary what's going on at the minute.
Do you think it's a crisis?
I do, because I think, as one of the callers in our trailer there was making the point, they're struggling to, I don't know, get back to anything like the way they were. They've sold players who many would think shouldn't have been sold, and they've also got older players. They brought Gundogan back, who's clearly not the player he was. De Bruyne is struggling for fitness. Diaz is out injured. The old way, and I've said this before about, say, Liverpool, you go way back, was often to sell players just as they were tipping over the edge, like a De Bruyne. You're looking at me thinking you should never have got rid of De Bruyne, but his injury sort of situation now is a problem for them, isn't it? You will look at me and go, well, Rodri, that's it. That's the problem. But it's more than that.
Yeah,
surely.
I think it might sort of highlight one of the reasons why Rodri was voted as Ballon d'Or. City's sort of travails without him. You mentioned Ruben Diaz. I mean, he's not only a very good defender in his own right, but he also brings the best out of the others around him. He's a great defensive organiser. You can see it. He's so highly respected. So they should. But look, other teams have got injuries as well. They're not exactly short of a Bob or two. Well, they're short of Oscar Bob, but they're not actually short of a few quid in terms of replacing. So just to put the crisis into perspective, I mean, if you want to put a crisis, a proper crisis, look down the pyramid and look at the fans' organisations who are fighting for the futures of their club.
Oh yeah, I know, but come on.
But sorry, real crisis in terms of the future of the club. So look, let me put it into a slight perspective, and then we'll sort of...
They're in a bit of a crisis because they might get done for 115 charges or 130 or whatever it is.
Well, absolutely. Now that will be a crisis. Well, but in terms of placing things into perspective, they've got a decent stadium, they've got a good fan base, facilities. You've been around the training ground. They've got a good academy. You look at Rico Lewis has stepped up. They've got Hugo Viana coming in. They'll probably spend in January. So that places it slightly. There is a fire burning there, but it's not an inferno yet. So, but they need individuals to stand up and be counted. And coming back to your point, I think that's probably what Pep was doing. I don't think he wasn't going full Ferguson, sort of defiant in adversity, but I think he was being realistic and also just being, we can get through this. But as you say, there are individual things, issues. Gundogan, when he came back, he's not the player that he was. It's a nice trip down memory lane, but, the way that Maddison just raced off him, and then Gundogan was sort of pointing towards him and said, who's picking him up? You, mate, you should have been following him. Kyle Walker, I mean, I think, we obviously covered him in the summer. He's 34. He's an amazingly sort of defiant individual. Point that Cass was making earlier. He's lost that yard of pace. Timo Werner, obviously he was fresh, and Kyle Walker had played sort of 80 minutes when Werner started running at him. But just, I think Rico Lewis needs to play there. At some point, City are going to have to sort of, rebuild the next Pep team.
That's where Werner should be playing, by the way. Wide on the left and crossing for somebody, not trying to go down the middle and convert, because that's what he can't do. But when he puts the burners on down the wing and puts in a decent cross, he looks quite a player.
Yeah, and start deeper, because he still hasn't quite worked out offside yet.
No. Do you think, we've seen some trailers from the City documentary with Pep absolutely going off on one in the dressing room. Do you think, despite his approach to the media yesterday, in that dressing room, he would have lost it?
Yes, but he will do it. I mean, he will do it in a sort of fairly focused way. I just don't think it's worth sort of tearing into to players in that sort of mood. They'll have a sort of proper debrief. Those players will know that they are underperforming. I mean, it's just...
When you talk about certain ones have to step up, who is it that has to step up in your view?
Well, I think Gundogan can't point for other people to take responsibility. He's an experienced player. He has to step up his game. I mean, Grealish, you need Grealish back up to speed. He's always had one or two injury issues, and I thought when he came on, he looks like the type who, I mean, look, we know Jack. Jack cares about his teams. He cares about the game. He cares about his form. And you're going to need individuals with that sort of attitude to drag City out of this, particularly when you look at some of the games coming up.
But he is still doing the thing, gets ball, cuts backwards, plays it sort of back across the line. Again, I watched him when he came on. The one time he tried to beat the full-back, it was tackled. It doesn't seem to me that he can skin the full-back in a way, say, a Doku skins the full-back, or a Savinho, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, they sort of rely a bit more on pace, but in some of the bigger games, Pep has always turned to Grealish because of that ability. Because he doesn't... I mean, Doku still occasionally gives the ball away, whereas Jack protects it a little bit better. He wins the free kicks. He gets into good positions.
He does.
I still think there's look, Grealish, I know there's a lot of criticism around Grealish, but I still think he's an important player. But also, they've got to start getting better service to Haaland. I mean, at least Guardiola, although he's been suspect defensively in the last few games, also internationally with what Ben Doak did for him for Scotland against Croatia. But Kyle Walker, I mean, he never crosses. I mean, it's. I don't understand what that's about. Whether he's been told he can't cross because he's, the questions about his technique. You can't play at elite level for as long as he's done without having a half decent technique. So trust yourself. And even if the cross is not exactly perfect, get it in early, and you'll get someone like Haaland will get on it. So I do have an element of sympathy for Erling Haaland because he's absolutely not getting the service.
Better give full credit to Spurs, though. I mentioned earlier on about Maddison, when he has a good game, it's get back in the side. But he needs more consistency, and Spurs generally need more consistency, don't they?
Well, they do. But look, they were. I mean, we talk about City's injuries, but Spurs were without both their starting centre halves, Romero and Van de Ven. I thought Dragusin, the physicality, the reading of the game. But Ben Davies, I mean, he's remarkable.
Good servant, isn't he?
Well, good servant, more than a good servant. He never lets you down. He's never on the front pages. He's just a great pro, and I thought he was outstanding. I just thought that Kulusevski was good outright. He was terrific outright. I thought Dominic Solanke, obviously there's been so much focus on Maddison rightly and Porro and the others. Solanke put in a real shift, whether he was sort of dropping deep to link or whether he was stretching, or whether some of those runs he makes such intelligent runs to sort of punch space for others.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.